after college, there were a few things I slowly stopped doing because they didn't feel important to me anymore. And looking back, every single one of them mattered more than I realized at the time. Before we dive in, I just want to say thank you for watching this video. Thank you for all the support on my other videos. You guys really blew me away completely with all the engagement and activity on my first few videos, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. So thank you. Without further ado, though, the first thing that I wish I never stopped doing after college, this one's the cliche one. It's cliche for a reason. I don't really care. Is I stopped prioritizing my health and fitness, and I wish I did not do that. During high school and college, I was kind of the arrogant and ignorant, 18 to 21-ish year old kid. I would judge people in my age bracket now that didn't keep up with their health. They weren't going to the gym. They weren't eating properly. I would say things like, oh, it's just discipline. Oh, you make time for what matters. Oh, I have an issue with, I won't have an issue with keeping that habit up. That's easy. Then I got here and I truly realized how even just small leaks can become a slow decline and just a complete erasal of a habit. It was month after month. I'd miss a day here, I'd miss a week there, and that starts compounding. And the next thing you know, you haven't gone to the gym in 3 or 4 months and you're up 20 pounds. It happens like that. Then I would try to get back on the saddle. I'd be good for a few weeks, then fail again. It was a hard transition for me going from immediately to college, no huge responsibility. Most of my income was discretionary. And then I went straight to being married within 6 months on my own with my wife, full-time job, boom, full on life, full on adulthood. And because of all that change, I kind of let my fitness slip. The good thing is I didn't let myself go. I'm not trying to say I put on 150 pounds after college, but you put on that that little husk after college. But I do have a few months minimum ahead of me to get back into shape, and a shape that I just feel comfortable in again. So I'm sure you all know this, but without health, everything else sort of really doesn't matter. And I wish I never lost this habit. I'm building these habits back up. I think I'm in a good state now. If you're going through this phase I was, try not to let it slide, even though going to the gym sucks. And I've been here many times saying no to food when everyone else around you is eating it and it looks so delicious and so tasty. You will always be happier that you did it later on, that you skipped that food, that you didn't eat that thing, that you didn't go over your calories, that you went to the gym, whatever. So just remember the big picture. Remember what you're really working towards. Okay. And that leads me to my second thing that I wish I'd never stopped doing after college and getting into adulthood. And that is sticking to a budget. Like most people, I was somewhat broke college student, even though my income was mostly discretionary. I didn't have a lot of income to be discretionary with. But that scarcity kind of brought the discipline, right? I still invested some through my works 401k. I didn't really have any debt. I was very fortunate. I didn't get any student loan debt. My parents were able to help me through college. Very blessed in that. And fully transparent, I had some help there. But I was still smart. Then I got that first job, and I'm sure a lot of you have had this before. I went from making a couple $100 a week, maybe, spending it on beer, going out, whatever, to instantly making over $5,000 a month plus some bonuses. And that quick abundance brought in some bad habits. I would spend too much going out, trying to look flashy. Luckily, I was smart enough to avoid the fancy car syndrome that so many people fall into. I stuck with my 15-year-old Toyota until it was at 220,000 miles, I think. And even now I have a 5-year-old Toyota. But if I saw something I wanted, I would just go buy it. And the problem when you're doing this and you're just kind of letting consumption go on without having automated savings and investing, you're wasting time. You're wasting your best investment years. And that's not to say that if you're starting later that you're screwed, but you might have missed, everybody knows compound interest. The more time you have things to grow, the more savings you have earlier on, the more that can grow as you get nearer to retirement. So I can't express enough how crucial for me sticking to a plan is, and automating those things. It doesn't have to be a lot either. Even I wish I would have started even with $50 outside of my 401k. Luckily, I was always doing that. But even just $50 in your retirement account, that habit quickly became addicting. And has gotten me to where I am now. And I don't want to make it sound like I completely lost the plot. Like I said, I was getting my employer match and I was investing even some more than that. I stayed out of debt. And even though I did get, I got some in the form of a graduate degree. Like after I graduated, I went to go get my MBA, which I still don't have complete yet. But I just got a bit too fast and loose for a few years after graduating. And I'm just saying, if you're listening and you're seeing yourself on the same path, try to stick to a plan. This phase that you're in is the building phase. It's the foundational phase where you can differentiate yourself from the pack and don't miss it. All right. And the third thing, reading books. And this is fiction and nonfiction. I think sometimes us youngins can go way too much in the self-development realm. And as good as those books are, it's important to have the nonfiction books as well. So yeah, in college, I was an avid reader of mostly nonfiction books. I would read book after book on investing, self-development, discipline, business, whatever, in that whole section. And it was helping me grow, and it was keeping me in a mindset of bettering myself. Because you'll find out, a lot of these self-development books, they're kind of the same thing wrapped up in a different package, right? But I personally believe the most valuable aspect of it is the fact that you're in a mindset of how can I get better here? How can I improve my life here? And I think that's what's really important about it. But continuing on, I slowly let this habit deteriorate. I switched to audiobooks, which they can be helpful. Okay, don't mishear me, but you're so much more likely to lose focus and miss things, especially if you're driving or if you're picking up stuff around the house. Once you start letting that habit change, you start losing that mindset of growing and bettering yourself. And you can get too comfortable. And that's what I did. Before I convince you to go buy the next big self-help book, that's not what I'm trying to do. I just want to say, don't ignore some good fiction too. It doesn't have to be a long book like Lord of the Rings or the Harry Potter series. Those will take you months to read. There are lots of good shorter novels that also help your creativity flow and help you become, a dreamer and get that imagination going again. I personally really loved reading some books by Louis L'Amour, probably butchering it, but if you look it up, Google will guide you. He has lots of short Western novels that are great reads, and they help kind of break up the constant books about business, investing, development, whatever. So don't feel like you need to read a book a day or anything crazy. Honestly, even just reading 10 to 15 minutes before you go to sleep is enough. Just keep in mind that you need to be growing and keep your mind active. Learn new skills, fuel your imagination and storytelling with some good fiction. Like I said, I was really good at this during my college age, and I kind of let it slip for a few years, and now I'm back at it and fueling my mind in a healthy way. So speaking of books, one of them was a habit that I formed from a book called Deep Work by Cal Newport, and that is remaining focused. You should read that book, but let me continue on. I used to have apps that would lock my phone. They'd block out notifications when I was working on a project or studying. I even had one that you grew a tree if you weren't using your phone for a dedicated amount of time. The longer you went, the more the tree grew, and you kind of it basically gamified being focused for a certain period of time. And, when I was doing this, I was able to create better ideas. I'd make better projects for school and for work early on when I still had this habit, and I would learn new things easier. And it was all done, like I said, because I read that book, Deep Work by Cal Newport, which I do recommend. It's a good book. Then, for no reason at all, couldn't tell you why, I kind of stopped. I'd be working on an Excel model or whatever. I'd get a ding, get a text, and then lose focus for 10 to 15 seconds, wash, rinse, repeat. And I completely lost the plot on this one for a while, I won't lie. But this was detrimental to my focus, and it severely capped my learning potential and the quality of whatever I was working on. You need to be able to set aside 25 minutes to an hour with no distractions, no interruptions. This helped me so much with learning things, with making better projects, being a better employee, entrepreneur, just learner in general. Okay. I truly, for myself, I really believe finding an app, find a system that works. Ideally, you would just have your phone out of the room, but I get it. I like to have music. There's a million apps out there that help you stay focused. Find one that works and have the discipline to use it and not break your focus. To help you with this, I will link a channel in the description that I use all the time. They're 1 hour blocks of videos with a timer and music and some B-roll from different movies and stuff. And my favorite one's a Batman themed one. They've tremendously helped me regain my focus and avoiding distractions when I'm working on something big. So, in summary, you need to keep the habits of remaining focused when you're working on something important. When you're studying, it's going to help you grow and it's going to help you separate from the pack. Okay. And lastly, my fifth habit. I used to have really strong daily habits of faith. And I'll pause right now. I'm not going to preach at you. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I just think truly it's becoming more and more evident each day that people are looking for something to ground themselves in, especially in a world like this with rampant AI, social media, isolation. People are looking for something authentic, something real. I used to read my Bible daily in college. I would go to a Bible study weekly, served at the church and like a youth ministry. Similar to like all the other habits, I slowly let this one slide. And I'm not telling anyone what they have to believe, but find something bigger than yourself. Donate your time to some cause. I also believe in generosity with financial stuff. I try to give because it helps kind of open up that hand. I can be so focused on investing and saving, and that's not always healthy from being an all-rounded person perspective. But like the other habits, like I said, I would begin to miss a study here, skip a few days here, then boom, a year later, I'd barely touch my Bible and was just doing things out of habit, not out of want or desire. So picking up these daily habits and rhythms again has helped me tremendously, just finding that selflessness that I've needed to have. I'm by no means perfect with it, but I'm growing and learning and hopefully on the right path. So again, not preaching at you, but find something bigger than yourself. It's going to be less isolating. You're going to meet new people. And truly, I think it'll help anyone become a more well-rounded person. So, in summary, this video wasn't meant to yell at you, to preach at you about anything going on in life, or be the end-all, be-all of habits to follow. I just wanted to share some things that I stopped doing for a while after graduating, once life kind of became more real in a sense, that if I never did stop, I would have been even further ahead towards my goals. And I just wanted to caution anyone who cared to listen that good habits can be a slow, almost invisible decline if you let them be. Your 20s are a time to build that foundation, make yourself well-rounded. And, I'm still in my mid-20s. I'm still learning and growing. But picking up all these habits that I used to have and went a few years without has bore some of the best times in my life. And I want to share them. So thanks for watching. I'd love to hear any habits you all had that you let slide, that you're trying to get back into, or thoughts on my habits, whatever. As always, thank you, and I appreciate your time.